It's a rare pleasure for me to be able to introduce Henry Weinfield, my lifelong friend in poetry and wife. Henry is a poet like no other, a poet of utter originality, command, and devotion to the art of poetry itself. In biblical Hebrew, certain letters are decorated with small tags called crowns. These crowns indicate, according to one commentary, that there are deep and numerous levels of meaning behind each of these letters. In a related way, I like to think of Henry's most recent book, An Alphabet, as a crowning achievement of his poetry, gracefully encompassing the somber and witty, youth and age, and a plethora of meanings behind each letter of the alphabet. Henry's almost genetic command of meter and rhyme enables him to range with seeming effortlessness between the high and low, the didactic and the bawdy, the philosophical and the quotidian, Immanuel Kant and Donald Trump. In the hands of this poet, the simplicity of a children's alphabet book proves an excellent medium for dispensing a wide range of truths. Graphically spare and lacking in information, each letter of the alphabet carries with it a vast web of verbal associations. And Henry's poems act as grids across which such meanings can meet and correspond or collide. We have descended into the darkest days of the pandemic, the period during which much of the book was composed. And yet, as the poet writes in the afterword to the book, I cannot remember a more beautiful spring. The flowers of the heather garden of Fort Tryon Park, near where I live, were especially radiant and abundant. The clash between beauty and terror, evident in that moment, seems to have inspired one of the loveliest stanzas in the volume. V is for Venus, loving mother of every living thing. On earth, the many-colored springtime flowers are blossoming. High in the sky, the happy-hearted birds are taking wing. Foster us, goddess. Lift our spirits in this troubled spring. In this current troubled season, we can look to verses such as these to lift our spirits. I give you Henry Weinfield.
Thanks so much, David, and thanks to everybody for coming, Linda and John for organizing this. I'm a little overwhelmed because I have here a lot of friends from college. David and Linda, Robert Cohn, Karen Slotnick, Barbara Latazis, we were involved in the same undergraduate literary magazine, Promethean, in those days. I have my wife and children here, and I have a number of my old students from Notre Dame, so it's kind of, it's like my whole life is here, so I'm kind of overwhelmed. Thank you all for coming. By the way, my wife did the painting that is the cover for An Alphabet. The figure is drawn from S and the last poem Z too. So I'll read those, and if I have time, I'll read the one that David kindly was reading. By the way, that Hymn to Venus is from, it's partly a translation from Lucretius's Hymn to Venus in De Rerum Natura. But I'm also making use of one of the translations in that one. But I'm going to start with I. And just one word or two about this book. I begin with the sound of the letter of each of the letters. Each poem gets each letter gets a poem, and I begin with the sound of the letter and end with the sound of the letter. usually. So, and there are a lot of homonyms and funny rhymes and that kind of thing. Can you hear me okay? Okay, all right. So I'm going to start with I and work backwards. I spy with my little eye late summer leaves still green against the sky, young mothers with their babies passing by, girls in their girlhood playing happily. I spy with my little eye as if I were God's designated spy, the ordinary stuff of comedy, or else, too frequently, of tragedy. Lives wasted and weighed down by poverty, others buoyed up somehow in dignity. The young, the middle-aged, the elderly, some new to life and others soon to die. I spy with my little eye, which only sees the things that it can see, and only spies the things that it can spy, blind to all else by sad necessity, beyond its given singularity. My little eye, formed by a little eye. My little eye, formed by a little eye. This is K, which was actually the first one that started me off in the sequence. K, aka Joseph K, was having a bad day. He felt as if his feet were made of clay. He looked out of the castle down to the quay, imagining the hordes of crayfish clogging up the bay. He thought of what Koheleth and Franz Kafka had to say. Things were bad all over, in every sort of way. He wondered whether in the end they might turn out okay. L. And the first L is E-L-L-E, the French. By the way, a lot of French comes into this sequence because I was working on Ronsard. I did a translation of Ronsard at the same time that I was working on these poems. So the first L is E-L-L-E, and the second one is E-L. You would see that if you were reading, but you can't hear that, obviously. So. L. Not El, the jealous God of Israel, who overthrew the Ugaritic bell, insisting, as they all do, he was all, and made us want so much, and made us small. Not El, the jealous God of Israel, who gave us heaven, and who gave us hell. El, not El, the jealous God of Israel, who, plural, transformed multiplicity into a fraudulent unicity. The Elohim from many he made one. The choice before us now was all or none. Either transcendence or the dark abyss of nothingness, eternal pain or bliss. Nor could the bliss that was proposed appeal to anything the senses could deem real. Not El, the jealous God of Israel, who tempted us until at last we fell. El, not El, the jealous God of Israel. Morality he gave us, this is true. It was the least or most that he could do. Morality bred arrogance and strife. It made us hate our bodies and hate life. It fostered cruelty and oftentimes elicited our most egregious crimes. Not El, the jealous God of Israel, who tortured Job for reasons hard to tell. Not El, but El, das ewig weibliche, La Belle, with whom I rode the Bronx-bound Broadway L that morning when we both were 17. Those were my salad days when I was green. And when at last she finally let me in, I knew her for the eternal feminine. Not El, the jealous God of Israel, who overthrew the Ugaritic bell, but El, das ewig weibliche, La Belle. Here's another one with French. There's a refrain in French: pis, tant pis, de mal en pis, de pis en pis. Worse, so much the worse, from bad to worse, from worse to worse. So this is the pessimistic one. P goes to cell phone, it's another text. If it's not one thing, then it is the next. As soon as you are seated in your chair, Lisa the robot calls from who knows where. She wants to talk about the student loan you never had. She won't leave you alone until in desperation you agree to purchase an extended warranty for one thing or another. Don't decline. She's sure to call you on another line. You're writing verse? Nothing is more adverse. The Chinese water torture isn't worse. Pis, tant pis, de mal en pis, de pis en pis. Pis for the sins, peccata on your brow. You need an angel to excise them now. To purge yourself and purify desire, you'd have to pass through the refining fire. An untoward desire is hard to purge, try as you might, if you don't have the urge. This is the problem of divided will of which Augustine spoke. It's with us still. And so the church, to shorten a long story, I say it in respect and to its glory, out of the need to purge made purgatory. In its great wisdom, reasoning that the dead would enter in the fire with less dread than those still burdened by a living body, pain being a deterrent for everybody. But back to you, without being purified, you always let your pleasure be your guide. In short, you put the cart before the horse. Now things are bad and they are getting worse. Pis, tant pis, de mal en pis, de pis en pis. Pipi sauvage, indignantly the French call public urination, both for the stench assailing them, Paris smells like a trench, and for the thought which makes most Frenchmen blench. Is this a metaphor for our own day, when nothing's valued if it doesn't pay? Of Western civilization, shall we say, that heartlessly we're pissing it away? Don't put the blame on those of other races, on immigrants, or on the lower classes. The rot stems from within. It has its basis in our own failure to clean up our messes. Without the benefit of the commode, the Greeks thought urinating in the road, being sacrilegious, would provoke a god to wreak harsh vengeance from his high abode. Vide the works and days of Hesiod. But we were endowed with modern plumbing, with all conveniences, most of them mind-numbing. We treat the public sphere as if we're slumming. A reckoning will come. I've seen it coming. Pis, tant pis, de mal en pis, de pis en pis. This is R. R is unruly, as all rebels are. Try to contain her, she will come ajar and scatter out the contents of her jar. Maybe this sounds like I'm still stuck on P, having succumbed once more to entropy, as when I tripped on N chiastically and desperately in need of therapy. But no, it's R, the unruly one, I rue. No Greek like P, but Swedish through and through. Improbably a Lutheran turned Jew, a curious combination of the two, because of which much mischief might ensue. I wanted R to frame a serious discourse on art. Was I delirious? The prospect struck her as hilarious. Ars longa vita brevis is the hope that human finitude will have a scope beyond the individual. Like a dope, I tried to foist on R this tired trope. Also, I hoped she'd castigate the gall of those who tape bananas to the wall and call it art. Imposters great and small. Who cares it are? Good riddance to them all. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? She sang these words one morning in my ear, and hearing them, I was already there. Often she takes me in her magic car. I am born darkly, fearfully afar, where all things random and unruly are. And this is S. S is the serpent in sound, sight, and sign. S is its hiss, its wandering, wavering line, curving and then recurving, serpentine. The Semites called it shin and sometimes sin. Because of them, we're in the shape we're in. Tooth is its meaning and its origin. Sharper than all things is the serpent's tooth. This adage is best learned in early youth. Those who are bitten taste the bitter truth. The Romans, rounding it, gave it a form apparently defanged of sinuous charm. Here was a serpent that could do no harm, a symbol of perpetually renewed vitality, abundance, plenitude, perennial return, infinitude. This concrete sign of metamorphosis in oneric and chthonic wisdom is synonymous with sex in Genesis. Sex was a serpent in the hissing blade that promised paradise, my sonnet said, which we, being innocent, could not evade. The serpent that in springtime sheds its skin, weed wide enough to wrap a fairy in, is for the Abrahamic cultures sin. Thus sex is sin and is the serpent too. We've had to swallow down this witch's brew for 3 millennia. Are we finally through? Not that the serpent in its pagan strain has lost its fangs. It causes grievous pain. All the diseases in their woeful train, despair and death, fall under its domain. But life and death are curiously combined. Sickness and health, joy, sadness. You will find on the caduceus 2 serpents twined. You must accept their contradictory pronouncements, as the poets all agree, from Wallace Stevens to Paul Valéry. Though Plato and Parmenides will shun the many in their quest to find the one, the choice before you isn't all or none. You must embrace a serpentine sagesse, a complementary wisdom that says yes to multiplicity, the plural S. T. T is for truth, assuming there is any. Truth isn't truth, said Rudy Giuliani. Truth isn't truth? In that case, you can't lie, or else can do it with impunity. That sums up these 2 miscreants to a T, both Giuliani and his boss, DT. You. You being singular and plural too, embraces multitudes, but even so, can be one only. Only one is 2. Whom you address is you, and as things go, you are the one whom you are talking to. I is another, said Arthur Rimbaud. I is another, maybe more than few. Talk to yourselves and find out what they know. Acquaint yourself with others who are you. Okay, I'll read the one that David kindly was alluding to, V. So you get the whole trajectory of it. Vie, la vie, Ah oui, c'est la vie. V is for Venus, loving mother of every living thing. On earth, the many-colored springtime flowers are blossoming. High in the sky, the happy-hearted birds are taking wing. Foster us, goddess, lift our spirits in this troubled spring. V is for velleities of various kinds. It seems we build our lives on fantasies, on wishes, hopes, and dreams. Velleity, the lowest of the powers of volition, because it wills but doesn't act, brings nothing to fruition, and in so doing testifies to our abject condition. V is for the ventilators we must now supply, lest those who have pneumonia and can't breathe without them die. V is for the vanities we nurtured, sad to say, investments in inanities accruing day by day, and for the false verities the virus swept away. Vie, la vie, ah oui, c'est la vie. X. X is unknown. Don't try to solve for her. Don't try to peer into her clouded mirror. The things she keeps opaque will not get clearer. You cannot see her and you cannot hear her. She is the Chi of chaos and chimera. Whatever X blots out or extirpates, her sister X preserves, perpetuates, but only as the ghosts of former states imprisoned in the past. She guards the gates and recreates what X obliterates. She holds the key to that mysterious annex in which experience, simple and complex, can be transformed. Heartaches and life's harsh shipwrecks, intimacies and secrecies of sex, pleasure and love are the preserve of X. Why? Why? And why ask why met at a hospital. Raising his fist to the sky, why are we born and why must we die? Asked why. Why asked why in reply said, why asked why? Why and why asked why met on the banks of a river gone dry. It was filled with tires and condoms, many feet high. Why have we done this? Asked why, starting to cry. Why asked why in reply said, why asked why? Why and why asked why considered the exculpation of one who'd been proven to lie, as even the FBI has never sought to deny, in regard to the flim-flam man's conniving to buy his way to the White House and offer us up to the Russians thereby. Why did the Justice Department presume to defy centuries of legal precedent? Asked why. Why asked why in reply said, why asked why? I'll read you the last one. There are two Z's, but I'll read you Z2. Z is the last. It looks back on the past, having no letters to look forward to. It marks an end, a limit we defend, lest chaos come and nothingness ensue. Without horizons there could be no meaning. Z is the last, no use then in complaining. But Z reversed, turned upside down, is first, and Janus faced looks both to Y and A. Having rehearsed the steps that it traversed, it wonders what the future has to say. The language changes as it runs its course, but is a cyclic poem at its source. The letters wait for some articulate practitioner of discourse or of song. The alphabet has never failed us yet, though lying speech has often steered us wrong. Upon these letters, a mere 26, depends our poetry, our politics. Do not equivocate, the letters state. Avoid all vagueness and pretentiousness. Lost my place. Do not conform to any form or norm. Keep in your memory that more is less. Though learning is synonymous with letters, do not let learning tie you up in fetters. Integrity depends on clarity. To say the letter killeth is to choose the insanity of Christianity in seeking to obliterate the Jews. Without the letter, how could we inherit anything of the richness of the Spirit? The alphabet will not let us forget that truth has given us no immunity. It will not let the crimes that we abet go unremembered with impunity. Our history is graven in the Word, and words cannot be endlessly deferred. My alphabet allowed me to beget each of these poems through its letters' sound. It gave them birth, whatever they are worth. I was the instrument for what I found. But now it's done. My alphabet has gone from A to Z. Now I can sleep easy, Z, Z, Z.